We're clear. Now we see if it's still one piece or not. I was just about ready to give up on it. All right, so it's the next day and everything's had a chance to finally cool down. I was able to thoroughly inspect and clean the ring gear, and it looks like it came through unscathed, so I'm really happy with that. I had some trouble when the flywheel finally loosened up inside. One side dropped and it cocked a little bit sideways and it bound in there, so I was trying to hammer the other side down and work it out. I was afraid I was going to damage something, but everything seems to have survived just fine. So now I'll walk you through my plan to put the ring gear onto the other flywheel, and I have zero confidence in the fact that what I'm about to tell you is going to be accurate in any way. I do not have a brain for mathematics. I was good up to the point where they insisted they were going to begin interjecting the alphabet into math. They lost me at that point, and I really struggled with it. Still have not wrapped my head around it to this day. So anyway, with that out of the way, this is my plan. Maybe it's flawed, maybe it's accurate, I don't know. What I want to do is keep the new flywheel cold while heating this ring gear so that I can hopefully just drop those two on. I'm not hammering, I'm not pressing, and it just clink, goes right on and doesn't give me any problems. So I went online. This comes from Practical Machinist website. Those guys are usually pretty up on their stuff. They say that for every inch of diameter of steel, it will expand 0.0000063 per inch per degree. So I measured out the ring gear and I settled on from midpoint to midpoint. I'm right at 15 inches. So we'll go 15 times the 0.0000063. In theory, if I am reading this right, it should give me 0.0000945 expansion per degree. So we take that 945 times 100 degrees would give me just a little over 9 thousandths expansion. 200 degrees would give me, 18.9 thousandths, close to 19 thousandths expansion. 300 degrees would be about 28 thousandths. 400 would give me 37. So the plan is to keep the new flywheel just as cold as possible. And here we go. There's our flywheel right down there. It's been there all night. We're looking like we're about -5 Fahrenheit in here because we're transitioning into spring. I think as cold as it got last night was +30, so this is my best option for keeping that thing good and cold. And then I'll just put the ring gear in the oven and give her a good preheat. And don't worry, I washed it. It'll be fine most likely. So that's the plan, and I don't have anything big enough to measure to see what my interference fit actually is onto the flywheel, but gauging this up against the other clean flywheel, my eyeball says could be up to 20 thousandths difference. So I think what I'm going to do is start at probably a 300 to 350 degree range. That should give me around 30 thousandths-ish, if any of that's even right. And then we'll just do a test fit and see if that thing just plinks on. If it doesn't, I'm willing to crank her up a little hotter and see what happens. Let's just give it a try. There we go. Make sure these slots are aligned. That's with the flywheel, about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Still loose on there. And the ring gear at 350 degrees. It actually clicks a little bit. So that's where I like to have it. Everything's lined up. We'll just let it sit here and shrink down. Just starting to tighten up right now. Confident that it's fully seated though. Looking good. While I'm waiting for that other flywheel and ring gear to normalize to equal temperature, I'm going to scavenge the pilot bearing out of 1113's old pitted flywheel. That's just like a Hyatt roller bearing down in there. Then there's the seal retainer that's held on by the 3 bolts. There is a seal in there that is replaceable. This bearing is greased through a grease fitting that is over here. I have it taken out right now. You can see that's the hole where the fitting was. And the way they do the drillings was there's a hole drilled straight down into the flywheel beneath these pipe threads here, and it intersects with this hole, which is blocked off by the ring gear. That hole is a passage that's drilled all the way through and feeds grease up into the pilot bearing. So when the ring gear's on, that's what blocks your passage here, so that it has to go in through the zerk and is forced into that bearing. So, oops, take the bolts out. There's that seal retainer. You see the seal in there. Like I said, replaceable. Have this little gasket under there. And we have like this spacer plate. And I believe, yep, another gasket that seals that. Bearing will pull out now. And I'll get this cleaned up and we'll give it a really good inspection and see how good it is or how bad it is. Yeah, we got Hyatt right there. Looks like a 7385 on there, but usually good luck finding these things new. That's why I always try and scavenge anything that I might think might still be good. So there is a press-in outer race left in here and a collar, kind of a spacer down below that. We'll get this over to the press and get those removed as well. Alright, I've had some time to clean and inspect 1113's original pilot bearing races, and I've got the beer can engine flywheel with 1113's original ring gear newly installed on the bench. We're ready to load this thing up. Taking a look at 1113's original pilot bearing. Unfortunately, that race suffered some rust and corrosion from the sitting. The bearing is still in alright shape, but luckily, in one of my many trips into 2115, I had renewed the pilot bearing and race and that one. These are all pieces that are in very good condition, exactly the same as what the 1113 originals were. So these are the ones we're going to go with. So the way grease gets into the bearing is actually via this spacer that's behind it. And although the outer race has a couple of holes in it, they are ineffective in this application. So what happens is grease will come from your zerk up that channel and through the end of this drilling right here. And this washer sits right at the back. There we go, right at the back of the flywheel like that. So the grease comes out of that channel and fills this groove. This groove has a couple of holes in it, and the grease will pass through those holes, and it basically gets into the inside of the bearing and is pumped all around and circulated, and that's how the pilot bearing is lubed. We're just going to set these pilot bearing pieces aside for now because I'd rather tap this race and this spacer in after this is on the engine. That gets them bottomed out against the flat face of the crankshaft better. And I also got the seal retainer, the separator plate cleaned up, new gaskets made for that, and I got the old seal pressed out. I was able to source a new one. That's on the way, but we can put that on after this is on the engine. The task at hand right now is getting our new old stock locks and screws put back into place, and I am going to back those screws up with a little bit of Loctite, because I have seen these loosen up before. I have a buddy with a 2H Series D6 that had a ring gear. I think it loosened up and cracked because these had, one of these had either broken off or backed out. There's just a little wrench on the shank of this screwdriver. Get just a little bit more tension on those. And now we replicate the original factory staking that was done to these. Pardon the camera angle, but I need to have it at least that far back in order to not hit it with my fingers. So we'll just pick a spot, start making an indent, decide if that looks about right or not. Alright, that's starting to look okay. Now we just make a bigger and bigger dot until it displaces material into that screwdriver slot that's in here. Go a little bit at a time. then stop and check. You don't want to blast that out of there. It's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to go just a little bit more. And stop right there. Finished up the other side. That looks good. Repeat for the others. Okay, we're just doing the final preps to get this mounted on the engine. I'll tell you what I'm doing right here quick. Since there are no alignment dowels for this where it meets the flywheel, it uses these shouldered precision ground bolts, all 6 of them, to act as alignment dowels. So these bolts are a very tight fit into the holes. And you can see in here, there's a lot of marks from punches, chisels, hammers, where people have been trying to bend lock tabs in the past. They got a little rough with it, beat it up a little bit, and it's not uncommon to see the top sides of these through holes come in a little bit and be way too tight of a fit on these shouldered bolts. They rely on a very true bore all the way through, and you can see this one will start in, the threads will go in, but when the collared section hits, it tightens up, and it makes it really hard to tell if you're cross-threading this into the crankshaft or not. So I usually always take a little round file and just gently re-true or take out some material that has come in along the top side of that bore, and I'll do a trial and error fit process on all 6 of these until they're fitting very well. And this is what you're looking for. Slight drag through tells you they're still tight in the bore, will aid in proper alignment, but you can also tell how well they're going into the threads on the back of the crankshaft flange. Okay, just about ready to put that flywheel in this bell housing. I've got my bolts dressed, cleaned, threads are chased, 3 of the new 7F8351 fold over locks under the heads, and you can see I have this one started here. This is simply one of these style bolts with the head cut off and the shouldered portion dressed down just a few thousandths. Screwdriver slot cut in the end. This is going to be an alignment peg to help me get that flywheel slid onto the crankshaft. I say this a lot, but that's just another thing that's going to make life a lot easier. Now we need to note this scribe line right here. That indicates cylinder number 1, top dead center line on this crankshaft. The reason that line is there, it's made to register with that scribe line that's partially obliterated inside this flywheel. Like I say, they have done a lot of hammering and chiseling in there. But you can see here's our timing marks. Top center 1 and 4 over here. Top center 2 and 3. Those marks there are what are going to register with the pointer on our fold over lock in the bell housing that can be seen through that little window to set the injection pump lifter yoke. So because this bolt pattern is symmetrical, that flywheel can be put on here 5 incorrect ways and only 1 correct way. So we need to make sure that the scribe mark on the flange of the crankshaft registers with the scribe mark that's on the face of the flywheel, and that way all of our timing indicators will be correct. There we are. That is why we dress those holes, so that these start so easily by hand. So I've got these bolts just cinched down, and we're at the point where I can torque them in, and I normally don't show this part because the way I operate with these videos, I figured by now you shouldn't need to see me torque something to know that it got tightened down. But that being said, I know there are a few torque monsters out there that just love to know what the torque is on every bolt, and I've said it in the comment section many times. In the 1930s, Cat wasn't that worried about that. They gave you torque specs for main caps and torque specs for rod caps and torque specs and sequences for cylinder heads. Everything else, just fall back on general torque fastener guidelines. To illustrate that point, I'll just show you what they give you for flywheel installation in the D3400 engine manual. All they have is clean the crankshaft flange and the counter bore in the flywheel. Be sure that the crankshaft flange has entered the counter bore and that the marks are aligned before the cap screws are started. Tighten the cap screws evenly. That's really all there is for the majority of fasteners on these engines. So what you do is you just fall back on the general bolt torque spec charts for the size of the bolt, the grade, and the thread pitch. These are 5/8 by 18. I'm just going to fall back on a grade 5. I have a light coating of oil on the threads, puts me at 128 foot-pounds. Again, I say this a lot, but to make life easier, I made this little plate. It's a holding tool for this flywheel, 4" by 4" by 1/4" thick piece of steel. I cut and slotted a couple holes at the top to put bolts in there and there. And then at the bottom, I measured in a 1/2 inch up, and folded both of those little tabs in. Those tabs will engage with those teeth, clutch teeth on the flywheel, and a couple of bolts will hold this right here, and I'll keep that from turning so I can torque it. Now, why did I only go to a grade 5 torque spec chart when I know these bolts are harder than that? Because with fold over locks, sometimes you need to give them a little bit extra of a twist to get them to align a little bit better with the tabs. This way, I can give them all a little bit extra twist if I need to, and I know I've still got leeway. I'm not going to be coming close to reaching the failure point of the bolt. Or if they're already lined up, I know that these things are so robust and turn so slow, 128 foot-pounds on all of these with a fold-over lock is going to hold this flywheel tight forever anyway. So that's the process. It gets kind of tedious, and that's why I tend to skip that a lot of times, because these videos are longer than I want them to be as it is. All right, flywheel locks are all folded. That's been made permanent, and I know it was a lot of messing around. We were able to keep that first gen flywheel. It was a lot of extra work, dodged catastrophe, but we were able to retain the cool factor thanks to the beer can engine. We'll just take a quick look in here, and I can see the TC1 and 4 mark is in line with the pointer. That's a good thing because 1 and 4 are at top dead center, so we know we're assembled correctly. So now we have the timing marks to start setting injection pump lifter yokes in the next video. Hopefully try and get this whole little area wrapped up right in here. And I'm going to hold off on doing any of the pilot bearing stuff. For now, that's going to have to wait till next time. I can tell that I'm bumping up against my max desired video length with all the files that are on the camera right now. But don't worry. Like I said earlier, the oven's fine, maybe. I'll just make sure the first batch of cookies that goes through that thing after baking that ring gear goes over to Rick Bork. Quick shout out to him. Click on his channel. He's a fellow prisoner at the Ford garage, and a friend of mine. He does some pretty interesting stuff. He's turning an old Vermeer round baler into shop furniture right now. Face it, that nothing can hurt that guy at this point. So click on over his channel. Quick shout out to him. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll get into setting those injection pump lifter yokes next time. Hope to see you back for that.